Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:07. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. Coming up in 1 hour, Sarah Carter, your newly anointed drug czar. Do they do an anointing process? Well, we'll ask her that. I think she gets a tiara and a sash and all that jazz. All right. Sarah Carter, drug czar, coming up in 1 hour. It's Larry O'Connor alongside. Oh, speaking of tiaras, she's a bit of a princess. She's Bethany Mandel. Good morning, Bethany.
It's so funny that you say that because that is our... Jewish Halloween is coming up. It's called Purim, and royalty is our family theme.
There you go. There's a Jewish American princess joke in there somewhere, but I don't think I can make it. I'm not allowed. Or is that the one ethnic group I'm still allowed to make fun of?
Oh, yeah. No, we're totally open season.
Oh, good. Joining us right now, Gabriella Hoffman. She is the director, thank you very much, of Independent Women's Center for Energy and Conservation, and I am happy to publish many of her columns and observations over at the mightytownhall.com. Gabby, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning, Bethany, and thank you guys for staying on top of the Potomac disaster.
It's pretty bad, and I don't think we're getting any clear indication from anyone about how bad it's going to be, how long the cleanup's going to be, and what the long-lasting effects are going to be. The fact that they're not saying that tells me it's going to be awful. Based on your understanding as an environmentalist, a conservationist, and studying these issues, what are we looking at here?
We're looking at 9 months, the reports are saying. Katie Pavlich has also been extremely on top of this. You both have. The local media has starting to take an interest, and because the Trump administration is now getting involved because of just the failure of the tri-state jurisdiction, tri-area, tri-region, and obviously coming from Virginia, Maryland failures, and the like, at D.C., of course, this has to necessitate intervention from the federal government. And they're saying, well, wagging fingers, saying the president was supposed to ultimately get involved before, but this started as a local problem.
Yeah.
And Trump has to mediate because this has just evolved into a horrible crisis. I don't see the usual Chesapeake Bay groups. Where are they? This is going to have so many spillover effects. They like to support lefty environmentalists, nowhere to be found. And it's just, I mean, I know we're probably going to talk about the CEO, but just the corruption at DC Water speaks to high heaven.
So speaking of the corruption, so is that how this happened in the first place? Are we ever going to have an accounting and a reckoning for how this could have actually happened in the first place?
There has to be, and I hope EPA Administrator Zeldin looks into it and where these environmental crises have developed, whether from the holdover administration from the Biden-Harris time. Zeldin and company have helped to clean up East Palestine. They're helping in the Tijuana sewage situation. So I bet you they're going to look here, have an audit, and say, here's total incompetence. Perhaps Congress is going to look into this to investigate what the heck happened. And I think anyone listening will be reaffirming their position not to give D.C. statehood if they can't follow through here. But it's billions of dollars wasted on DEI contracts from the CEO. There's going to be just so much, and I'm happy to unpack more, of course.
Obviously, the impact on Northern Virginia, immediately bordering the Potomac, especially directly adjacent to the district. We're talking Arlington and Alexandria and such, that they're going to be impacted directly on this. But what about further down the Potomac, where there's a little bit more of a culture, even more of a culture, I should say, down past Mount Vernon as you continue down into the Chesapeake Bay, where there's even more of a culture of water sports and really enjoying the river life. Is there any indication, and have any of the local officials made any sort of prediction about what's going to happen there? Because this stuff is all floating down.
It does, and as everyone who lives in the region knows, everything eventually flows into the Chesapeake Bay. So as the E. coli levels are starting to get presented to us, and we find out that we could see potentially fish kill-off, if we start to see birds, wildlife, aquatic species, and others dying, heaven forbid we see eagles dying, which has been fully recovered. You could see eagles flying around here. If you see indicator species, iconic species starting to die, then you have a major problem. And everyone who loves oysters, blue crabs, eating catfish further down. Don't eat catfish. We saw that gentleman saying, I'm still going to eat catfish. I'm like, please do not eat catfish.
What was that guy thinking? By the way, so now these animals, catfish, crabs, oyster, they're all sort of, I think you could call them bottom bottom feeders, right? I mean, they all sort of they already sort of ingest a lot of bad stuff, but this goes well beyond that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, nobody wants to eat or consume, food or water that is contaminated with sewage. And it's crazy to me that the environmentalists who are usually sounding the alarm, they were upset about the endangerment finding being repealed. But when an actual environmental crisis is afoot, they're nowhere to be found. Because you know why, Larry and Bethany? Because this is not a private company behind a spill. This is because the government is. And actually, there is a study that listeners here on the show should be aware of 10 years ago plus. A study from Indiana University or some Indiana university said that actually governments are less compliant with environmental regulations than private sectors. So it's not surprising to me that they would skirt this. They think they'd be immune, and then they can point the fingers and blame someone else, like the Trump administration.
Right.
Well, that's interesting. If a private business or private industry, like I think about those guys who rent out the stand-up paddleboards and the kayaks there right at Georgetown. I mean, there's no way they're going to have any business this summer. If a private business is impacted by this negligence of the government, what recourse do they have, or do they?
They might have some recourse, but you're going to see when Governor Westmore and Spanberger finally wake up and realize, they're going to say, okay, we need a bailout of the Chesapeake Bay. We need a bailout of the business owners. And I think you're going to see business owners. There are a couple of fishing guides that I keep hearing about. A lot of them are very self-sufficient, so I don't think they want government handouts. But if it's so much where things have to be remediated and it's just a total loss to their business, like I said, we're still waiting to see the impacts. But if it's going to be as bad as forecasted, I mean, the killing of the outdoor recreation economy, whether it's boating or fishing, leisurely drives, whatever, restaurants who won't have, let's say, certain, specialty items like oysters or blue crabs. The blue crabs, if you remember during COVID, they went to Spain. I hope they don't do that again. That would be terrible. They stay put. But it's just like there's so many negative, pun intended, spillover effects from this. And the people who are like, oh, I defend the environment, I defend this, they don't care about a lot of outdoor recreationists when push comes to shove because they want to tax them. Look at what they're doing in Richmond, taxing you to have fun. I mean, why not put a tax on outdoor recreation? That could be something that they do. And in Maryland, they're probably exploring this as well. But it's just they don't really care when push comes to shove because it's not the convenient narrative, not the convenient scapegoat that they usually do. So they are going to come up with excuses and say, well, we need more government money. Just throw more money at the problem. But this was an aging problem. I think it definitely goes to gross incompetence. And we've seen this before where there are Democratic-caused environmental disasters and Republicans have to come and clean it up. It happens.
Yeah. So we're hearing these projections. I think that we could sort of separate the projections into like what the immediate problem is going to be in this area, but then also downstream in like Virginia Beach and Newport News and all of those places. Are they going to be impacted by, are people going to be able to swim in Virginia Beach, I guess is my question.
It depends how severe it is, and if it is going to be as severe as reported, there probably will be advisories issued to discourage activities in the ocean because, as everyone knows, the lower Chesapeake Bay feeds into the Atlantic Ocean. And if it does go deep into that, absolutely, I'm not a health professional, but I would probably advise against it. And a lot of those areas are lower income communities. So if they depend on fishing, if they depend on working in watermen's activities, they're definitely going to be hard hit because everything is so interconnected with the waterway system we have here. So I would have put past the fact that it would have negative repercussions for these regions. Your swimming is going to be affected for sure if you do it. I never have swum in the Potomac. I don't have any intention. And if you've seen the advisories or some of the groups claiming you're going to swim in the Potomac by 2030, good luck with that goal happening now. That'll never be obtainable. That'll never happen.
Oh, devastating.
Wow.
Well, I don't know. Gabriella, what are you going to do? Because you're the outdoors woman here. You love to enjoy all the great stuff. I guess you're going to have to go further inland. Further inland?
Definitely not on the river. I don't want to contaminate myself. I mean, and I'm going to be watching and observe this, and all of us have to be vigilant. And if you care about the environment, you have to make a stink about this.
Yeah, so to speak. Thank you, Gabriella. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
A stink will be made. Just make sure you're part of it as well. It's 7:15. Bethany, Mandel, we love New York, but it's going to be harder and harder to visit there under their new Marxist regime. What is it Margaret Thatcher famously said in the 80s there about Marxism and socialism? You remember her famous line?
No.
Eventually.
And I'm so good at these usually.
Eventually you run out of other people's money.
Okay,
That's
I
right.
just didn't know it was a Thatcher quote.
We knew it was going to happen in New York under Zoran Mamdani. but we didn't realize it would happen quite so soon. Understand, most of his campaign promises about free this, free that, free this, free that, free this, whenever asked, how are you going to pay for that, he said, oh, well, we're going to tax the wealthy. But, of course, you see, the mayor of New York City doesn't have the power to tax the wealthy. He needs the governor, Kathy Hochul, and the politicians in Albany to do that. And Governor Hochul, who's running for re-election, said, yeah, that's not going to happen, pal. So what does a reasonable person do when you can't fulfill your campaign promises because the money's not there? Well, you say, sorry, we can't do it. Oh, no, not when you're a communist. No, you just take other people's money, so it's no longer the ultra-wealthy. Here, take a listen to his press conference, cut 11.
What we would rather do is ensure that they remain as they are so that the city can be on firm financial footing. However, in order to get to this point of closing the gap on both this fiscal year and the next fiscal year, we are forced to raid the rainy day fund, the Retiree Health Benefits Trust Reserve, and to increase property taxes across these other years.
They're forced to do it. Well, they're not forced to do it. They could maybe give up the dream of free daycare and free grocery stores and free buses and free this and free that. And that. No. I'm sorry. We're forced to do all of these things.
There's no such thing as a free lunch. There's no such thing as free childcare and free buses. This is going to make it intolerable for New Yorkers to remain. And I one of my husband's colleagues, John Podhoretz, posted something really interesting on Twitter that I caught, actually only because someone that I know took a screenshot of his tweet and posted it on Twitter. So obviously I'm not a good enough wife that I keep track of my husband's boss's opinings. But he said that this property tax hike is going to, that the cost is not going to be borne by the people who pay rent. It's going to be borne by the owners, by the people who own property. And it's going to lead to massive owner abandonment, just like the 1970s.
That's right.
And I think that he's correct. And I feel bad because there's a lot of people, including John himself, who own an apartment in New York City. And it's not going to be great.
The upside for Mamdani's government is that, back then, those apartments or those businesses would just sit vacant. And then when things started to come back to life and there started to be some more sane and rational governance of New York, companies came in, bought those properties, and then rejuvenated them. But no. Mamdani will take caesarship. The government will take ownership of those abandoned buildings, those abandoned apartments, those abandoned businesses, and it will get even worse because the government doesn't pay taxes on anything. Here's a little bit more from Zohran Mamdani. And by the way, this could very well be some power play. This may be Mamdani trying to force Hochul. Because listen, Hochul, if she wants re-election, she needs the New York City vote. Honestly, when you win as governor of New York, if you don't win New York City, you're not going to win. And so maybe he's trying to drum up outrage in New York City against Albany to say, no, you're raising our property taxes? To hell with that. Raise the taxes on the ultra-rich, what they're calling ultra-rich, of course. But here he is expanding on these property tax increases because it's not a small increase. Take a listen.
At the heart of this path is a property tax increase. This would effectively be a tax on working and middle-class New Yorkers who have a median income of $122,000. The second path also requires us to raid our reserves. It would mean withdrawing $980 million from our city's rainy day fund in fiscal year 2026 and $229 million from the Retiree Health Benefit Trust in fiscal year 2027. These are steps that have been taken before, but only in moments of extraordinary external crisis. Mayor Bloomberg's response to the 2008 financial collapse and Mayor de Blasio's response to the enormous revenue shortfall caused by the pandemic. We do not want to have to turn to such drastic measures to balance our budget.
They don't have to.
What crisis?
It's not a crisis. The crisis is government spending.
Right.
And Marxist ideas. But, listen, he's saying, hey, I ran for office. I said I was going to do this. You elected me, so you want me to do it, right? Well, the only way we pay for it is to start taking money. You heard it. It's a tax on people making $122,000 a year in New York. That's lower middle class.
Oh, yeah.
That's barely getting into the middle class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But affordability. Bethany, this is all about affordability, isn't it?
No, I mean, it's so frustrating because he's manufacturing a crisis
That's
by
right.
just throwing other people's money into the air like it's coming out of like a T-shirt gun.
He's a Marxist. That's what.
Yes, he's a Marxist. But, oh, when this happened during COVID, this like, yeah, but there's no existential crisis except for you, Zoran. It's just you.
The campaign was, I'm going to do all these things if you vote for me, and I'm going to do it with other people's money. And now that he's in office for 2 months, he says, oh, apparently I can't do that unilaterally. So I'm going to keep doing these things. I'm just going to take everybody's money and do it, including the retiree health plan for government employees, rainy day fund, the rainy day fund for the governor. What happens when it rains? That's what those rainy day funds are for. Also, one other thing, 40%, this is where you really have to watch these Marxists. Where are they spending all the money? 40% of the New York City budget is for the Department of Education. 40%. It's they have
schools.
They have 1.1 million students in the New York City public school system, and their budget is larger than the entire state of Florida's education budget. And the state of Florida has nearly 3 times as many students.
Who are doing better.
Money
does not equal success in schools, and it's certainly not in New York City.
But it does equal indoctrination.
Yep.
It's 7:24.
Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
7:38, it's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in to our little extravaganza here that we do every day from 5 to 9 a.m. If you miss any one of those 4 hours, I don't know why you would. I know I don't miss them, but if you do, the good news is you can subscribe to our podcast. You will have it conveniently delivered to your device of choice automatically, which is pretty fantastic. Each hour broken down for your convenience, and each interview with our guests. In fact, coming up at 8:05, we're going to speak with your drug czar and friend of this program, Sarah Carter, and that'll be broken out as a separate little standalone episode on our podcast. That's how we roll. It's Larry O'Connor with Bethany Mandel. Good morning, Bethany.
Good morning. And I just want to say the best part about the podcast is that you can fast forward through Larry talking.
That's just
you have that fast forward button.
You know what? You're getting a little too comfy here on the show, I think.
I'm not coming back for a couple days, so I feel like hopefully by then you'll have forgotten about it.
Well, you know what? That's a great reminder that we missed Julie Gunlock terribly.
Amen.
And nobody was meaner to me on this show than Julie. So you've got...
And you love her.
You've still got goals to reach here. Bethany, you and I, our family, our children, we are all the results of the great immigration to the United States of America that has been part of our culture since our beginning. Yes, of course, legal immigration.
I just want to throw that out there.
My family came in the late 19th century and the early 20th century. I assume your family did as well, considering we both share Irish roots and European roots, right? And
yes.
Whenever whenever we have any observations about illegal immigration and sort of this new influx of people just flooding across our southern border, coming illegally and seeking ways to stay here and then be normalized and receive amnesty and citizenship eventually, we are always reminded, how dare you criticize that? You're the children of immigrants. We are a nation of immigrants. But there is a difference, and there is a distinction. Much of it has to do with the legality, certainly. Yeah. But there's another difference, too. Take a listen to this video. It's gone viral. It's from, I believe, either TikTok or Instagram. And I think it illustrates exactly what many of us believe is the problem with the current immigration ethic in this country. Here, listen.
Let me hold your hand when I say this. We do not move to America because we think it's a better country. We move here because it's a little less worse than our other countries. Because you're stupid to think that we moved to this country for some hot dogs and some baseball. We have better vibes, music, food, culture, history, literally all of the above. We just move here because we are looking to make more money and offer a better chance for our families. Did you know that the minimum wage a day, not an hour, a day in Mexico is not even 15 American dollars? Not even 15 American dollars. Right now with $15 in San Diego, I could go maybe buy a matcha and half of a granola bar, honey. If you support ICE, you support people getting destroyed. If you support families getting destroyed, I hope you rot in hell. And I will see you there, babes, for sure.
Wow, she's charming, isn't she? Bethany, this is, I think, part of the problem, too, because when I heard stories from my grandfather who fled persecution and pogroms and slaughter, when I heard stories from my other grandfather on my father's side who told me about how they fled starvation and they fled, yes, people think that people come to America because of our economy, but the mindset of the European immigrants from the late 19th century and early 20th century was not to view America as some sort of bank account or ATM to just draw money off of and tolerate who we are so that they could eventually go back home or send their money home. No, they saw us as a place to come as a refuge, as a paradise compared to the world that they were leaving. And I know her point is that our culture ain't that much better. Well, actually it is. But the perspective that we are just here so that they can make more money and live a better lifestyle, that's new. We're not an ATM. We're not a mall. We are a country. And if you don't want to be here, then don't come here.
Yeah. I wonder how much time, she has no accent. I wonder how much time she's actually spent in Mexico and had to deal with the violence, had to deal with the crime, had to deal with the ramifications of what it's like to live on $15 a day and what the supermarket shopping must feel like. All of those things. I've lived in a third world country. I lived in Cambodia for over a year, and people sit outside the embassy for days at a time trying to get a slot, trying to get a ticket. And it's not because it's marginally better here. It's because it is night and day better. I don't think that she has any experience in dealing with what it's like to live in a third world country for more than a weekend visit. That's probably the extent of her experience.
Yeah, I think you're right. And again, I think it goes down to, this whole idea that people come here just for jobs and for money. That may be true now, but if that's the case, then we need to shut this down.
Yeah.
Because that's not what our immigration policies are supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be about, hey, come here and get rich, or come here and make more money for your job than you can make hourly in the country you're in right now. We're not an ATM. We're not. Yep. We are more than an economy. You should be coming here for freedom that goes well beyond the free market. It's 7:44. Meanwhile, in Maryland, the Democrats were celebrating their brand new immigration policies passing, and these policies are, take a listen to Delegate Matt Morgan as he described exactly how ICE will not be able to function in cooperation with any local jurisdictions in the state of Maryland. Take a listen.
Democrats are holding a press conference, rally, celebrate their passage of emergency legislation celebrating stopping the 287G program, where correctional officers work with ICE to take criminals they're currently in custody and turn them over to ICE. I find this a little hard to believe that this is the first piece of legislation to pass the 2026 session. Let me tell you about three names that you won't hear at the podium right now, and you won't hear from the governor later when he signs the legislation. You won't hear Rachel Warren's name. You won't hear DeCarlo Thompson's name. You won't hear Carla Hamilton's name as well. You won't hear about the victims, the thousands of victims that criminal illegal aliens have actually committed against victims here in Maryland. You won't hear any of that.
Yeah, right. And by the way, there's a lot of emotion on the Democrat side on this, and they are constantly emoting about Alex Preddy and Renee Good, the two agitator protesters, disruptors who got in the way and interfered with ICE agents in Minneapolis and ended up losing their lives. But they don't have a whole lot of it. We Republicans, we conservatives, we people who actually want a well-regulated immigration in this country and appropriate enforcement, we have a lot of emotion on our side, too, because innocent American citizens were murdered by illegal immigrant criminals, and not because they got in the way of law enforcement, not because they were disrupting. They were out minding their own business, walking on trails, jogging, what have you. They were assaulted, they were raped, and they were murdered. So spare me the emotion on your side of it because of Renee Good, because we've got plenty of emotion on our end. And I think it, frankly, is more powerful than yours.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you look at the two stories side by side of, these individuals who, of their own free will, went to a protest and assumed risk in so doing. There's those folks. And then there's people who were living their lives and did not ask to be made into martyrs. The former did. The former were looking to challenge people violently, and you're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to point out the videos of Alex Preddy kicking in the lights, the tail lights of ICE agents. You're not allowed to say that. Once he died, he became a martyr and unassailable, just like George Floyd and all the other martyrs of the left. But it's not the same. It's not the same animal.
Can I ask, though, I mean, you're right. You're 1,000% right. And it's objectively true. And any fair-minded person looking at these issues right now would reach the same conclusion. So why are we reduced to a Republican delegate? And he's a fine man, and I don't mean to bring him into this, but he posted the video, speaking in hushed tones outside of the press conference there that the Democrats are holding. Or we're reduced to literally nothing coming from Republican senators right now. Where is their outrage? The Department of Homeland Security, the TSA, and various other aspects of the Department of Homeland Security, including FEMA, have been defunded right now and shut down because Democrat senators are more concerned about protesters who got shot in Minneapolis than they are American citizens who were murdered by illegal immigrants in this country. Why aren't Republicans screaming about this? Why aren't they forcing these Democrats? Okay, fine. You want to filibuster? You stand in the well of the Senate and you keep talking and you engage in this debate and you let the American people know what motivates you. Because you're motivated by Renee Good and Alex Preddy. I'm motivated by Rachel Morin and Laken Riley and every other innocent American. And Republicans should be on the floor debating it with them so the American people can see 24/7 exactly why Democrats have shut down the Department of Homeland Security and where their priorities lie. But instead, they're twiddling their thumbs and navel-gazing and say, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
I mean, I think it's the prior generation of Republican leaders who, by the way, I love Mia Paul Ryan. I love Mia Mitt Romney, but they lost. And that brand of Republican and conservatism lost because you have to be willing to go to the mattresses. You have to be willing to say the things that make people uncomfortable. And the uncomfortable reality is illegal immigrants have committed some atrocities in this country, and there should be a reckoning. And they're afraid to say it because there's a lot of cowards. And maybe that's part of how you become elected, is you have to be a little cowardly.
No.
But it doesn't mean I have to respect you for it.
I love them for their time, but this is not their time. We know what time it is now, and we need new leadership.
Yep.
It's 7:53.